Hello everyone and welcome to another very quick video that I'm recording mostly for myself so I don't forget how to do these things in the future, or in case that I have to do these things again in the future. So what I want to show today is basically, let me go to Houdini, and here I have a very basic terrain. Let me disable this thing for a second. And I just want to show you how to take a Houdini terrain, also known as heightfields, into Unity, because it's not that straightforward. So let's take a look at that. So as you can see here, this is a very basic terrain. I'm not pretending to do anything pretty here or nice looking. I just want to show you the workflow between Houdini and Unity to get exactly the same that you have in Houdini, but in Unity. But yeah, this is basically regular height field tools here. So I'm starting with a regular height field. I'm adding a little bit of noise to get some peaks and valleys and whatnot. I'm adding a little bit of distortion. I'm clipping the bottom of these mountains to get like a flat area. And then I'm basically masking that area, adding a little bit of blur, and finally adding a little bit of noise so it's not completely flat as it was before. And finally adding a little bit of erosion so I can get a little bit of more natural looking environment. And also out of this erosion I'm getting multiple attributes that we can use later for driving things like layer shaders or scattering systems. So as you can see here, I'm creating cliffs, mesa, bedrock, sediment, height, debris, and water. Okay, and if we want to display those attributes, we can enable visualize here, and basically we can see here 4 different channels. So the red channel would be, let's say, rocks or stones or whatever you want it to be. Then we have the green area that could be some kind of transition between the red and the blue, and then we have the blue, which is the flatter areas of this terrain, and finally we have the black that could be whatever, right? So it could be grass, and so basically here we have 4 different masks that we can use for blending for different materials in a layer shader. So let's see how we do all of that. So the first thing that we actually care about is the actual height map. So I'm going to disable this visualize for a second. And basically the height map is a displacement map, right? So I added a height field output here. Again, this is just a regular height field output node, right? And I changed a couple of things here. So first of all is the file type. And as you can see, this is a PNG file. Well, if you go to Unity, if you go to the terrain toolbox, that if you don't have it open, I have it open here, and I have it docked here on the right side. So basically, you would have to go to terrain toolbox, right, to display that one. So if you go to the height map resolution, you can see here that the resolution is 4097. Or if you want a 2K resolution, is 2049. So I'm going to stick to 4K, but it's not 4096, which is usually what you would use for a 4K texture map. So you need to add that extra pixel in there. So if I go to Houdini, you can see that I'm using 4097 by 4097 instead of 4096. That's the first thing that you need to set here. Then is the format. Unity uses what it's called this raw file, okay, this raw file here. Houdini doesn't output raw files. I mean, it outputs file formats like EXR that contains raw data, but it doesn't export a .raw file. So you would have to export in whatever format you choose, and then convert that in an image processing software like Photoshop into a .raw file. So I'm exporting this one as PNG. This is single channel. By default, I think this is set to RGBA, but this is a displacement map, a regular displacement map, a luminance displacement map. This is not a vector displacement map, and we don't need any more information that the red channel. So I'm gonna set this one to single channel. Then this one is 16-bit fixed. You can have it as a floating point as well, and 8-bit and 32-bit, of course, but PNG doesn't support 32-bit, so there is no point. You can try EXR 32-bit if you want to, but all the tests that I've done so far, PNG 16-bit fixed seems to work very well. So I'm going to stick to those settings because they work. Then you need to go to the output layer section, and here you need to select, you only have a red channel because we set this one to a single channel, of course. And here you can export any of the attributes that you have in your height field. We want to export the height because that is the displacement, that is the height information. And this one by default is set to no remapping. It seems to work better when you auto remap it to the range 0 to 1. Okay, cool. That's the only thing that you need to do. There is no need to change anything else. Here you have tiling. We're not using tiling here, so we're all good with these settings. Save to disk, and then if I go to Photoshop and I take that file that I exported, which is this one, this is what you get here. Okay. If you add an exposure here, you can see that well, you have all the data there, which might not be visible, but it's there. Cool. From here, you need to go to File, Save as Copy, and export it as Photoshop RAW. As you can see, I have exported already. So you can export it. Let me change the name because I don't want to replace it. When you export this, you need to change the byte order to whatever operating system you're using, Macintosh or IBM PC. In my case, is IBM PC, so I'm going to export it as IBM PC. I don't need to export it because I already have it. I believe this doesn't really matter if you're using the same settings in Unity. So I guess I could export this as Macintosh, and then in Unity set the import as also Macintosh, and it would work. That's what I think. But anyway, because I'm working on Windows here, I'm setting this one to IBM PC, and that's all you need to do. Then I'm exporting also, I have another height map output here, and in this one, I'm exporting that one as something called splatmap.dga. Splatmap, it's kind of like a naming convention that is used in games, right? In visual effects, we don't tend to use that name. I guess we would call these IDs or ISO masks or just masks. And in this case, I'm not exporting a single channel. I'm exporting an RGBA, and then I'm remapping the red channel to the debris attribute, excuse me, the cliffs to the green channel, and the mesa to the blue channel, and the alpha is black, or I'm not mapping anything to the alpha. And what I would get is exactly what I have here. I would have a red mask, a green mask, a blue mask, and the alpha would be whatever is black here. So I have 4 different masks into one texture. And this one I'm exporting as TGA that supports alpha channel, and again this is RGBA, 16-bit and 4K. That's everything you need to export out of Houdini. This map, by the way, you don't need to do anything in Photoshop. This works straight out of Houdini as a Targa file. Now back to Unity. So once you have your terrain toolbox, you can go to Create Terrain, and here you click on Use Raw File and select that file from my desktop, that heightmap.raw. make sure that you're using the right resolution. In this case, the resolution of the map that I exported, 4K plus 1 pixel. And the only thing that you need to input manually here is the dimension of your terrain, the size of your terrain. If you go back to Houdini and check the properties, you can see that the size is 1000 or 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. This is a square map. And the height is 368.479 meters. Okay, so that's what you need to input in Unity. So if I go to Unity, I would say this is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer and 368 meters. I believe that's all you need. Oh, sorry, actually there is one more thing, and it's this flip axis. By default, that one is set to none. So your terrain wouldn't match 100% the orientation that you have here in Unity. Let me disable this visualize. So in order to match it, you need to set that one to flip vertically. Click on create, and this should create your terrain. So it has created this terrain folder, and this is my terrain. And I have it here in the inspector. Okay, so this, let me make it a little bit bigger, is actually matching in size and resolution and also in orientation what I have in Houdini, as you can see here, right? So that's all good. Okay, cool. Yep, this is working fine. As you can see, it has a checkerboard, meaning that it doesn't have any materials yet. We're gonna take a look into that in a minute, but the resolution is working. This is not crazy resolution. As you can see, we're getting some faceted areas, but that is exactly what I have in Houdini also. I didn't go crazy with resolution. The resolution of this is 1 million voxels. Okay, so of course that's not enough for something as big as this, but I guess for, you know, some kind of background mountains or whatever, this would be just fine. Great, back to Unity. So yeah, the height map is already working, so we're good. You can select the terrain, go to the terrain toolbox, and if you go to settings, here you can change things like texture resolution. You can change these to whatever, I guess. If you set that one to 512 and apply the settings, then you get like a lower resolution terrain, which might be good enough for whatever you're doing. But I'm just gonna set it to 4097 because that is the actual resolution of my height map. So we get like a 1-to-1 match compared with what we have in Houdini, and this is very efficient. I mean, this should give you good performance and whatnot. And yeah, the height map, this is basically the only thing you need to do to match the height map. This is all working fine. What about now, how do we use those splat maps that we exported from Houdini? How do we use this? And this is a little bit maybe not straightforward, I would say. So let me show you how to do that. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to, you can modify these now in Unity, right? So you can go to the terrain, select the terrain, go to the inspector, and if you click here, this is the paint terrain. Here you have multiple options, so you can go, for example, to sculpt, noise, and you can select any brush here, set the strength, set the size, and if you wanted to add some detail here, you can just start painting and you would start adding that noise based on this brush or based on other brush. So you can modify your terrain in Unity. I think sculpting a terrain from scratch, it's very hard. Like, it's very hard to mimic nature, right? But if you're using a terrain tool, it doesn't matter if it's Houdini or any other one, it's much easier. But then if you want to modify things based on your characters or your gameplay or whatever, you can just do it. You can set that one to other things as well, like terracing, for example, right? And it will create terraces. Or you can just go to something that probably you will be using quite a lot, which is raise and lower terrain. So if you feel like maybe something here needs to be raised, you can just start raising the terrain based on whatever you're using here. I guess the strength is too high, but I mean based on on your brush, you can start sculpting the terrain. And if you hold control, you can lower the terrain as well. So those are things that you can do in Houdini, in Unity. But when it comes to the actual splat maps, you need to set that one to paint textures. And now here you can start painting the different layers of your terrain. So if you scroll down here, you have this layer system that at the moment is empty. So we can create layers. So I'm gonna go here, create a new terrain layer. And I'm gonna mimic what I have in Houdini. I'm not gonna use any textures really. I'm just gonna use flat color, so it's very easy to understand what the tools do. But here, I mean, let's pretend that the blue is grass, then the red is soil, the black is stones or rocks, and the green is whatever, like dirt. So we can do the same thing in Houdini. So this layer, it would be, let's say, the soil layer, but I'm just gonna call it black because it's gonna be a flat color. And in this black layer, you would have the usual PBR components like diffuse, normal map, a mask map that is also an RGBA texture that contains the metallic in the red channel, the ambient occlusion in the green channel, the height in the blue channel, and the smoothness in the alpha channel. You cannot use displacement here, or I don't see any inputs for displacement. You might be able to hack the shader in the VFX graph, in the shader graph. I'm not sure about that. But also then you have controls for metallic, smoothness, tiling, and offset. I'm gonna get flat colors here. So these are just textures that I'm gonna be using. So for the black layer, I'm gonna be using a black diffuse color. That's it. I'm gonna go to my terrain, add layer, and now I can select this black layer. And now my terrain is black. Looking at black is not very pleasant visually, so I'm gonna replace the black with a gray texture. So now this is gray. Cool. All right, let's move the lighting a little bit so it's not super dark. There you go. Right, so let's create more layers, right? So this would be, again, our first layer of the terrain, grass, soil, dirt, whatever you want. Let's create another layer. I'm gonna duplicate that one, and I'm gonna call it red layer, and I'm gonna use my red material. Gonna duplicate that one, and I'm gonna call it green layer and use the green diffuse color. And finally, I'm gonna get a blue layer. So again, each of these would be a different material with all the components of the shader, normal maps, roughness, and whatnot. So that would be blue, and that would be blue. Okay, so if we go back to the terrain, we can add those layers. I'm gonna add the red layer. I'm gonna add the green layer and the blue layer. The order matters, right? So if I move the red to the top, now my terrain would be all red. If I move the green to the top, it will be green, and if I move the blue, it will be blue. So the terrain, the order of the layers matter. So just to mimic what I have here in Houdini, I'm gonna say that the bottom one should be black, and then we should have the blue on top, the red on top of the blue, and the green on top of the blue, and the red on top of the green. So this is basically what I have. I'm gonna change the black layer to be black again, so we see exactly the same that I had in Houdini. Cool, that's what I have. So now, if I want to reveal any of those layers, I just need to paint a mask for it. So if I select green, and I go somewhere and I paint, now I'm revealing green. And this is also, you know, you can use different brushes and whatnot. Same with the blue. If I want these mountains to be blue, I can just paint them in blue. And if I want these ones to be black, I can just paint them in black. But of course, you know, painting these kind of things is also a little bit difficult. And we made this splat map anyway. So let's take advantage of this splat map that is, of course, using more complex systems like the erosion and the features of the terrain, slopes and curvature and occlusion and whatever. So we can use this. How do we use this? Well, we need to, with the terrain selected, let's go to the terrain toolbox. And if we go to terrain layers, we have to click here, import from terrain. And this is going to import these layers that we created. So let's do that, import from terrain. There you go. Then we go to terrain splat maps and kind of the same thing. If we click on import from selected terrain, it will import the splat map that we painted, what we have here in the screen. So if I click there you go. This is the splat map that has been created. So this. Well, it is not a texture yet. It could be. If we export it from here, we can export that and manipulate that in Photoshop or in Substance Painter or Mari or whatever. But if we already have a splat map, which we have because we created it in Houdini, I'm just going to import it into my Unity project. And this is the splat map, right? So if I double click that, you can see it here in Photoshop. So now I can basically replace that one by dragging and dropping that splat map over here. Now with the terrain selected, I click on apply to terrain. And now we get that same height map. So I get exactly the same that I had in Houdini. I get the black areas, that's the bottom layer. I get the red areas, and I get the blue areas, basically, right? So this is all working. And again, if I go to my black layer and start adding here different textures, then I would get that, right? So if I change the black by the gray, now all of that is gray. Or if I go to the green layer and I change that one with these other textures, or I guess the green layer is not very visible, the red layer, and the red layer, and I choose the gray, now those would be gray, and that's it. And again, I can also modify these. So if I go to the green layer and I decided that I want to extend it, I can just start painting. I will be extending that that layer. Right, so I can just start painting there, and it will be extending that specific layer. Or the blue layer, maybe I want to extend that one or remove a little bit of that. Right, so this is basically how you would do it. And as you can see, this is matching Houdini 100%. So yeah, that's basically how you do it, right? Yeah, again, not making anything pretty here, just want to show you the workflow between Houdini heightfields and Unity. All right, bye.